Arnold Winkelried by James Baldwin. A great army was marching into Switzerland. If it should go much farther, there would be no driving it out again. The soldiers would burn the towns. They would rob the farmers of their grain and sheep. They would make slaves of the people. The men of Switzerland knew all this. They knew that they must fight for their homes and their lives. And so they came from the mountains and valleys to try what they could to save their land. Some came with bows and arrows, some with scythes and pitchforks, and some with only sticks and clubs. But their foes kept in line as they marched along the road. Every soldier was fully armed. As they moved and kept close together, nothing could be seen of them but their spears and shields and shining armour. But what could the poor people do against foes as these? "We must break their lines," cried the leader, "for we cannot harm them while they keep together." The bowmen shot their arrows, but they glanced off from the soldiers' shields. Others tried clubs and stones, but with no better luck. The lines were still unbroken. The soldiers moved steadily onward. Their shields lapped over one another. Their 1,000 spears looked like so many long bristles in the sunlight. What cared they for sticks and stones and huntsmen's arrows? "If we cannot break their ranks," said the Swiss, "we have no chance for fight, and our country will be lost." Then a poor man, whose name was Arnold Winkelried, stepped out. "On the side of yonder mountain," said he, "I have a happy home. There my wife and children wait for my return. But they will not see me again, for this day I will give my life for my country. And do you, my friends, do your duty, and Switzerland shall be free." With these words he ran forward. "Follow me," he cried to his friends. "I will break the lines, and then let every man fight as bravely as he can." He had nothing in his hands, neither club nor stone nor other weapon. But he ran straight onward to the place where the spears were thickest. "Make way for liberty," he cried, and he dashed right into the lines. 100 spears were turned to catch him upon their points. The soldiers forgot to stay in their places. The lines were broken. Arnold's friends rushed bravely after him. They fought with whatever they had in hand. They snatched spears and shields from their foes. They had no thought of fear. They only thought of their homes and their dear native land. And they won at last. Such a battle no one ever knew before. But Switzerland was saved, and Arnold Winkelried did not die in vain.
Hello, my name is Michael Donsmith.
And my name is Michael de Groot. And together,
we are bringing you the Story of a Speech podcast.
Okay, so it's Michael de Groot here, and this week on the Story of a Speech podcast, we are going to be having a look again at one very famous speech. And last episode, we did A Few Good Men with Jack Nicholson and Tom Cruise. And this week, we're going to be doing The Good Dictator with Charlie Chaplin. And so, Michael Don, for all those young listeners out there who haven't got a clue who Charlie Chaplin was, can you tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah, I mean, from my childhood, Charlie Chaplin was an iconic silent movie star. And he has actually had a film of his life made, a modern version. He was a very complicated guy, brilliant actor, dedicated. And as the the actors of that time incredibly good at physical presentation, because majority of his career was in silent movies.
Mm.
So that's good. But obviously, when the talkies, as they were called, came along, movies with sound,
Yeah.
he really blossomed more as a director and a writer than anything else. So he's remembered mostly for that. And as you mentioned to me, he was a contemporary of Adolf Hitler. You say they were born a week apart?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he made 11 feature films as a director.
Wow.
One of them, The Great Dictator, was a political satire condemning a kind of mishmash of great dictators, Hitler, Mussolini, the Nazi movement. It condemned anti-Semitism. And that was Charlie's first full sound production, and
Right.
was actually nominated for 5 Academy Awards. So, it was really highly decorated, highly awarded, and showed how much he'd learned in his career in the movies. In fact, The Great Dictator is ranked as one of the 20 best comedy films of all time.
Comedy, did you say?
Yeah, it's a comedy, it's a satire, it's a play on words, it's a play on the theme. So yeah, it's
Well,
quite
that's
funny.
really weird, because the clip that we're going to talk about, The Great Dictator, the final speech from The Great Dictator, although I get that it's satire, but it's really serious and actually really appropriate even in today.
Well, the human condition never changes. So when people say these great speeches, these great works of art, oh, and they're still applicable today, that's because we're still human. So,
Yes.
humans will always fight, they'll always love, they'll always hate, they'll always be angry. We always go through these same emotions because we are human, and then people are waiting for us to stop being human.
Mm.
The key thing about, as you said, the speech we're going to listen to is that it's the whole point of the whole movie is that speech. So everything
Right.
that happens, the humor, the satire, the drama, the pathos, and in fact, in the introduction of that speech, he's sitting in the audience as an ordinary soldier who's had these remarkable experiences and has been elevated in people's awareness of him. And again, this is like Hitler was a corporal, house painter was a nobody, and rose to become the Chancellor of Germany. And the senior officer sitting next to Charlie Chaplin's character, who's actually a Jewish barber, and that's an interesting point I won't go into. So he's sitting next to the barber, and there's literally thousands and thousands. So when you watch the clip, as I hope the audience will, you've got to imagine that in front of him are literally thousands and thousands of people. It's like a giant rally, a big Nazi rally, huge numbers of people in front of him.
Right.
And the Jewish barber in his uniform stands up, and well, the general or the other officer says to him, "They want you to speak. You need to speak." And he's going, "Oh, I can't speak. What will I say? I don't know what to say." He goes, "You need to speak. Come on, get up there." And that's where the clip starts, is when he's reluctantly in front of the audience. In fact, the first part of the speech is a pause. I love the power of the pause.
Yes.
And Chaplin, again, being the brilliant director, actor, artist that he is, uses that pause to get the attention of a huge throng of people, because they're all waiting for this Jewish barber who's become a soldier, become a leader, to start talking and to inspire them for the next step.
But what happens then? I'm going to delve in, if you don't mind, about the pause. What happens to the speaker when they do a pause, and what happens to the audience?
Wow, that's a good question. I like that. Well, what happens? Let's see what happens to the audience first, because that's the most magical thing. when a speaker steps onto the stage, they've created a barrier, or they've entered onto a platform that effectively makes them in one place and the audience in another place. The most visceral evidence of this is where the eyes are pointing. So the eyes of the speaker normally are facing the audience, and
Yes.
the audience's eyes are facing the speaker.
Yeah.
Now, one-to-one, this is still interesting, but it's one-to-one, so the dynamics are less because it's an equal opposition of forces, as it were.
Yes.
But as the audience grows, the eyes grow, the attention and the energy coming from the audience at that moment should overwhelm the single pair of eyes that is the speaker.
Oh, okay. So, but why does that happen?
Well, it's because from a primordial, from an ancient point of view, I'm not sure if I've said this on the podcast before. If you're in the Amazon forest or the African savanna or the cold plains of Europe on your own, and you turn a corner and there facing you are a huge number of eyes, possibly in the dark, facing you, that is terrifying. That is dangerous.
Yes.
You know, because you're on your own and there are all these eyes facing you. So at a snake brain level, you know, this deepest level of our consciousness, facing opposing eyes is dangerous because you want to be in the crowd, don't you? You want to be with the pack. You want to be with the group. You want to be with the tribe.
The safety in numbers, yeah.
The safety in numbers. So that is why, let's just say novice speakers or inexperienced speakers will often get on the stage and either freeze and not be able to talk or start talking straight away.
Yeah.
And don't prepare themselves. So what's happening with the audience is they are expectant and they're also a little bit afraid. And it's hard to imagine, but even, you know, a pack of wolves against a squirrel, there'll be an instance where they are sizing up the opposition. Because
Yes.
the greatest hunters are normally masters of camouflage, of subtlety, of stealth. So powerful hunters or good hunters will actually double check, because sometimes it can be a trap. There might be 20 million squirrels behind there. So nature's taught us all to be very wary at the beginning of an encounter. So for the audience, they are expectant, they're waiting, and in the modern context, they're actually waiting to be entertained or informed, because we've learned with the school system or the institutionalization of education, we've actually learned that when we're in the pack, sitting there all together, the eyes in front of us are there to educate, inform, explain. So we're waiting for something to happen.
Yes.
So the crowd are expectant, and the length of the pause has to be balanced. So you want enough of a pause to raise the suspense. What's he going to say? What's she going to do? Are they good? Are they bad? So in that the first words you say in the speech are the ones that will be totally absorbed with 100% attention by your audience.
There's something else I think that happens too. And that is the audience makes up stories in their brain that goes, he's pausing, she's pausing to collect their thoughts before they start speaking, or they're pausing because they've forgotten what to say. And so it's one of those thoughts, or that expectancy, I agree, or this person doesn't know what to say, this person's really nervous. I mean, you see this in I don't know if you ever watch episodes of Dragon's Den when people are pitching for funding, but sometimes people lose their words and they just can't remember what they're going to say next and they go into this silence. And And then the dragons, who are dragons, kind of go, it's okay. You know, it's okay, carry on, you know. Like they're really empathetic all of a sudden. They're like a dragon. And then all of a sudden they see somebody hesitating or pausing and they go, oh, it's okay, you know, we're not going to kill you type of thing. And so there is this also empathy, I think, that you engender in the audience, because the empathy might be, oh, she's forgotten her words. So I really feel sorry for her now, because I wouldn't want to be in her shoes at the front forgetting your words. Oh, no, they haven't forgotten their words. It's okay. So there's all these stories, I think, that go through people's heads. I only know this because I've done it myself. I've done it watching you, right?
wondering what, if I've forgotten my words again.
Yes. And I know you haven't, but there is a fleeting thought that goes through my brain. Oh, he's, and then I realise it's all part of the process, and I then relax then afterwards. So there is an element as an audience member that you do have that kind of empathy.
Well, yeah. I was just going to say, and if you're going to go that deep, we'll go there. So the reason is, so let's go to this. Hold that thought now. What's happening in the speaker's mind in that pause? Well, if it's a deliberate, controlled pause, that speaker knows that he's now giving room for the stories to grow. Now, if you want to create a contrast, I'm going to touch on that a little bit later, or to maximize the effect of your first words, you can create some hints for the story you want them to create. So you might look down at your feet, have your shoulders slumped, be in a position of doubt or worry. Now you're going to make the audience then think, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing, or she's forgotten her words. So you can actually create little hints without saying anything by your presence. Yeah. In the same way, people will go on stage, they'll bound on stage energy, stand with their feet square, look at the audience directly, and look around, scan them with knowledge and competence, and they're thinking, bloody hell, wait for it, this is going to be good. Or, you know, this person. So you can play into the stories, and you can actually program them with a story you want them to have before you even open your mouth. The speed at which you're on the stage, how slowly you walk. You're in one position, you're walking left and right, you're looking forward. And there's so many things you can do in that pause to pre-frame the audience before you even open your mouth.
Yeah.
And of course, there is the genuinely nervous speaker who will pause, and it's a good thing. I always say that everybody, when they get on stage, should be nervous, because nerves are a sign of energy. It's that fight or flight response. It's that, you know, the boxer, the warrior getting into battle. They want those nerves. Those nerves give them access to a lot of energy. But if you don't utilize that energy, the chemicals, the adrenaline, the cortisol that's there beside the dopamine hit if you're excited to be on stage. So those chemicals are just sitting there in your bloodstream, not being utilized. And they're very powerful chemicals. They're actually poisonous. That's why people start twitching and getting or a lot of bad things happen. But if you breathe, so again, the nervous speaker will tend not to breathe.
Right.
And you need the breath and the oxygen in the bloodstream to interact with these chemicals to provide the energy. So breathe, because oxygen plus adrenaline equals energy. So without that oxygen, you're actually literally poisoning yourself as you're standing down the stage. It's very powerful, very fast-acting chemicals and hormones and stuff. So yeah, that's what. So again, look, we've just talked for a couple of minutes there on this pause, and that's why I love it. There's so much you can do with the pause if you're in control and if it's deliberate.
Yes. Brilliant. I love it.
And yeah, so back to Mr. Chaplin. So he made this film, his first film, which was for he had two iconic characters. One was Charlie Chaplin, the bumbling, silent comedic actor.
Yeah.
And well worth, if you don't know about Chaplin, it's well worth looking at that because he was the master. And then he has this other character, which is the Great Dictator, is this Jewish barber who's thrown into the goes from obscurity to fame and leadership in the arc of the film.
Yeah.
And this speech survives the film. I mean, the film was made in 1940. In fact, I'm looking at IMDb because we have the database there. Yeah, and The Great Dictator was in 1940.
Wow.
And it's still, this speech is still shown or looked at and studied years later because it's brilliant. There is not a second in this speech which isn't planned and crafted to the utmost degree. And hopefully we'll get time to show you some of the stuff that he does in that. So I guess we should get into the speech itself.
Yeah. So let's play. So we'll play the whole speech now, so people can get a sense of it, and then because you probably know most of it better than I do, then you can unpick it, and I'll kind of. I've got it in front of me as well, so I'll pick up a few things from it as well. So let's listen to the speech from the Great Dictator, Charlie Chaplin. You
haven't played it. Just before you play it, I'll just have a little like things for the audience to listen for while they're watching it.
Okay, good point.
By now, hopefully they'll know about the structure of a speech or the structure of a story where we have a beginning, an opening, a body, and a close. Remember, the beginning is where you grab the attention. The middle is where you give people some information, some stuff, you share stuff with them in an entertaining, educational, or influential way. And then the last part is a close with a call to action. So those are the three parts that we're trying to have our listeners get used to, recognizing the transitions in the speech. And this speech is very, very tight, dense, and the transitions are almost seamless. So see if you can listen when he finishes the introduction, goes into the body of the speech, and then goes to the call to action. And play that clip, sir.
Will do. Here it is.
I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world, there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost. The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world, millions of despairing men, women, and children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes. Men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate. Only the unloved hate. The unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, Don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world, a decent world, that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite!
Okay, that sounded brilliant. I can't get bored of listening to it. And it's even better watching it, actually. So I'll put the link to the video clip also in the show notes so people can go and look at his acting, which is also really amazing.
It's phenomenal, and it is totally in sync with the words. Every motion, because he's a silent movie star. So he came from a world where there were no words. So he has a skill of letting every action tell the story. Like a great director in major movies, they have to try and cram a 1,000-word book into an hour and 2 hours on the screen. And so they learn that. That's hard anyway, but imagine doing that when you don't have the auditory cues. You can have the subtitles underneath the film, but imagine no tonality. And maybe one day we'll talk about how sound or words are used in movies still to do things that the picture on its own. So people say a picture paints 1,000 words. I always go, I don't know, because one word can paint 1,000 pictures.
Yeah,
you don't hear that very often. So yeah, if we just start at the end, because that might be what's fresh in the audience's mind, you'll see hopefully you've spotted the opening, the middle, and the close. If not, laser focus. Perhaps you'll see it. But at the end, when he raises to a crescendo, and he goes, now, we're going to fight. We're going to, just get for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. So I just wanted to show it at the end. So the last, literally 15 seconds of the movie, I think it's the last 30 seconds of the speech, he literally says the same things he says at the beginning.
Yeah.
It literally is a summary, a repeat at the beginning, but it's with totally different emotional. His body's different, the energy's different, and it's prepared the audience. So Scott, in the end, he's got these key phrases. Let us fight. First, he's fighting by the end. He's not fighting at the beginning. To free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate, with intolerance. All these things he talks about in the beginning. But now he's saying, let us fight for a world of reason, and science and progress are going to lead us to happiness. And then he says the final call to action is, soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite. And there's a lot of rhythm and rhyme and alliteration. Every tool in the speaker's arsenal is used. So in the bottom there, and metaphor. So when he says let's all unite rhymes with fight.
Yes.
So his first is let us fight, and he finishes with let us all unite. When he says let us unite, he's actually saying let us fight together.
Yes.
And there's so much of this beautiful metaphor packed into this. We'll try and unpack some of that. So the reason I want to show you that is at the end is if you go to the beginning, or if you think about the beginning of this speech, There's this beautiful pause we said in the opening to grab their attention. So he grabs their attention. You can grab attention with a loud bang. But as any horror movie fan, or anyone who's watched a suspense or drama movie knows, you also grab attention with the silence.
Yeah.
And when it's just a little bit too long, and when you watch the movie, you'll see it's the beginning, and he's a reluctant, shy, untrained barber who has not prepared this speech at all in the illusion of the movie. He doesn't know what he's going to say. So the first words out of his mouth are the least powerful, the least energy. You know, he stands up and the first words he says are, "I'm sorry." So after the pause, this guy's got thousands of people in front of him, and he would be if he was a Jewish barber, you know, if he's a barber from the sticks, with no training, standing in front of thousands of people, and doesn't know what to say. So he says genuinely, "I'm sorry." Now, the opening, the attention bit, is where you very, very quickly tell the audience who you are, why you're there, what you're going to be talking about, and why it's important for them to listen. And he gets all that done in 34 seconds, including 10 seconds, 12 seconds of pause. So he only leaves himself 20 seconds to do it. And then he's very slow, deliberate. "I'm sorry. I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone." And I've got a little star in my notes. That's the first disingenuity that he puts in there. The first flip the script, where you actually say what you don't want, or say what you want, that you don't want it, because that removes the fear of it.
Yeah.
And in fact, he then goes say, "I should like to help everyone." And there's another star there because he hints that that's not true. So he goes, "I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone, if possible." And that "if possible" is so beautiful. He slips that in there. If possible, which means is, I'm not going to help everybody. You know, somebody's going to get hurt.
Yes.
I see this. He just gently slips that in there. "I should like to help everyone, if possible." Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Now, what's happened in the 20 seconds? We're only 15. This is in 15 seconds. This is how packed it is. You start off with, "I don't want to be an emperor. I don't want to conquer anybody. I don't want to rule. That's not my business. I just want to help people." Then he switches to, "We all want to help people." So he's now identifying himself very quickly with the audience. So he's saying, "I want the same things that you want."
Yes.
And in fact, he then puts a fact in, and he does a lot of this where he and this is a Donald Trump trick. He'll pick one fact and associate it with another fact as if they back each other. No, he'll associate an assumption or a presupposition, an idea of his, and he'll make it associated with the fact, as if the fact that fact is true makes his preposition, his assumption, his suggestion true. So he suggests we all want to help one another. That's not true. But he says it like it's true. He goes, "We all want to help one another. We're together. I'm like you. We all want to do this thing." That's a suggestion. That's an opinion. But then he says, "Human beings are like that." Now that's a phrase, human beings, is if saying that's a fact. Human beings won't do that. So if you're a human being, then what I've just said is true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which isn't actually correct.
No.
And then it tags onto the human beings bit. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. And the only fact in that whole 20-second introduction, or is that the audience already knows, is they're all human beings. And he's made that introduction, because that is 30 seconds of his opening, and he's packed a lot into it. He's identified he's one of them, because I to we.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to hurt anybody, if possible. We're all human beings, and we all want to live together. and they were all good. Oh, so in that first, he's a quiet, shy little guy. He's sorry, he's apologetic. We're all together, but there's a hint of danger if possible. So that's the opening. Really packed full of stuff there.
And it's interesting because, as you said, he starts quietly, and then towards the end, he's really powerful. And I liken it to like a crescendo in music. And
Yeah.
I'm relating it to a crescendo in my taiko drumming, because we often, when our taiko drumming teacher says, no, start quietly and then build up like a crescendo. And then we do it again. And he goes, no, you're not doing it. Start quietly and then build up the crescendo. And he has to repeat it to the group several times because people aren't getting it. They aren't getting it. That actually it's more powerful to start quietly, because you can get people's attention when you start quietly, because they're going, why is he so quiet? Why is he starting so meager and quiet? But then there's this crescendo and it goes, we can be loud, you know, at the end in terms of our drumming. And so we're getting your attention when we're quiet, but we're also getting your attention when we're loud.
Absolutely. And then it's crafted into this speech several times.
Yes.
And we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So that's the first sort of 30 seconds, and he's finished his opening. And he has got their attention because there's an intensity, again, because he's such a great actor, he's able to project his voice and increase the intensity, because what he does is he puts a certain energy into the syllables that means that even though I'm not shouting, I've got more energy in the words. And he does that so fluently through there. It's it is hypnotic, because he insists on the cadence and the rhythm of this speech. It must have taken a while to put together.
Sure.
So he goes to the body. What's the body? The body is stuff. I talk about stuff. The body doesn't matter. Again, on Donald Trump's mind, I love to study Donald Trump. Donald Trump understands that facts and figures and information, people are interested, and the human brain doesn't like that. The human brain wants emotion and flavor and color and story. The facts are there. So he actually, in a 4 or 5 minute speech, he only uses about 2 minutes of it. I think it's 4 minutes. He only uses 2 minutes to give them information. And the information is repetitive, and again, another influencer, and it's also very emotive. So let's look at it. So, and we're really going to pick this one up because I say I love it, and it's one that's well worth studying.
Yes.
So in the body, he then starts the body very subtly. You hardly know the transition. All his transitions are smooth. So he finishes the opening with, we don't want to hate and despise one another. That's very important because he set that as a stage. It's we're together, and we're nice people. That's where he starts them at. And then he goes, in this world, there is room for everyone. And the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. This is possibility. He's painting essentially future pace, because it says that rich earth can provide for everyone. So it's not saying it is providing. So he's giving possibility. He's saying, no, things can be great. Things can be better. The way of life can be free and beautiful. So that's the possibility. Then there's a note here, but later on he's going to come back to the next theme. He says the way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. There's a challenge, there's a problem. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate. Look at that for visuals. It's poisoned men's souls and barricaded the world with hate. And then this one, which is a hint at Hitler, it has goose-stepped us into misery. It's poetry, it's pure poetry. It's just goose-stepped into misery and bloodshed. And then he goes to the contrast frames, which talk about your taiko drumming. This is syncopation, this is rhythm. We've developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. So that's saying we're going nowhere fast. We've developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in.
Yes.
Machinery that gives abundance has left us hungry. And what he does is he doesn't use the word that should normally go there because he wants a rhythm. And he wants the extra meaning. So he could have said machinery that gives us abundance leaves us without abundance, but he's not left us in want. Want is a funny word because it means two different things. I want something means that I lack something.
Mm.
So it leaves us in lack, leaves us less.
Yeah.
So it gives us abundance and makes us less. Our knowledge has made us cynical. Our cleverness hard and unkind. And this is the same contrast he started with in the beginning, which is we want human beings like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. There's not 2, 3, or 4 lines where he doesn't keep playing this contrast, creating tension in the audience, making them want something. All this middle bit is about lack. Our knowledge has made us cynical. We think too much and feel too little. Think too much. This is Donald Trump. Don't listen to what people are saying. Don't study. Don't think about it. Just go with your gut. Go with your feeling. And because that's all I can give you. I've got no content. All I've got is this feeling.
Yes.
And then when he goes, we think too much and feel too little, the music emphasis increases around that time, because the music has been very subtly building in the background. But here, it really punctuates. It's because we think too much and feel too little. And then he repeats everything he's just said, but with a different spin on it. He goes, more than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent. Now, again, this is incredibly subtle. Because later on, he's going to say that unless we're violent, we can't get these qualities.
Mm.
But here he's saying, without these qualities, life will be violent. So he's pre-framing them some more for the energy that comes later. The same words, the same sentiments repeated. Nothing new. So all he's now going to do, he's going to say the same stuff he said before, but with different metaphors. He says, the aeroplane and the radio brought us close together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men. Does it? Does it really? The contrast frame is the idea that the logic that makes his statement equals the truth. So the statement is full of logical arguments. They're logical, but they're not necessarily factual. So the logic is the airplane and the radio brought us close together. That's true. But the very nature of the inventions cries out for the goodness in men. Is that really true? But because he's subtly woven it with the facts, and then he goes even further. He says the airplane and the radio have brought us close together. That's true. And then he suggests, this is a suggestion, a presupposition, the very nature of these inventions. That's just a logical construct. It's not true. And then he makes it, the very nature of the inventions cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. It may do, it may not, but he's delivering it behind this logic that makes it very easy for the unconscious mind to swallow, because the unconscious mind doesn't analyze. It follows the emotion, the rhythm, the feeling of the words.
And with that, particularly with that one, because although the aeroplane and the radio, have brought us closer together, but then he's almost putting aspiration into people's heads to look at these things in a different way and say that actually you didn't think of it as that these inventions would bring the goodness out in men and the universal brotherhood and the unity of us all. People wouldn't have necessarily, no one, when they said, here's the aeroplane, this is now going to bring the goodness out in men and give us universal brotherhood and brings unity to us all. Nobody said that, right? So he's trying to plant images in people's heads that they hadn't thought of before. And they kind of go, oh yeah, maybe it is for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly where he's going. And he knows that first, in fact, it's the third time he's creating this argument. There's only one argument in the thing. So then the music goes up at this point, and he doubles down the challenges and increases the emotional intensity by combining and contrasting this logic with facts and feelings. So now he goes, even now my voice is reaching millions throughout the world. So that's a fact, because his voice is using this technology. So it's the same statement again, or illustrating it. But then he goes, millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. Wow, that's what they hear playing the radio are doing.
Yeah.
It's torturing people, making victims. And then he says, to those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. Now, in the principles of Hermetic logic and alchemistry and mystery religions, they have a term that says, let those who hear, or only those who can hear will understand. So he's saying in here, and those who understand this deeper logic, he's saying that a lot of people are going to hear what I say, but not many are going to get it. So I'm sending this message out to everybody. But for those of you who are on my frequency, on my wavelength, I'm telling you, don't despair. So he's again doubled down on solutions, and he's subtly identifying himself with the solution. Those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. From the beginning, that's the first time he's gone back to the I. It was all we. Now, this very important juncture when he's saying that my voice is reaching millions of you. And if you can hear my voice, don't despair. Why? It must be something that you know or that you're going to do that's going to stop the despair.
Yes.
He's identified himself with the solution, but not overtly, very subtly. And then increasingly, the music is now getting kind of tense and emotional. And he goes, the misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed. The bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass and dictators die. So the violence is in there. Your misery is because these dictators are alive. And it's now starting to give you the solution. It includes death. And this is that little bit at the beginning. I'm going to help everybody if possible. This little sting of danger. He keeps bringing, and so at this point, we're now halfway through the speech, literally halfway through the speech, and he's saying, dictators die. And the power they took from the people, that's you, will return to the people, that's you. And then this next piece is so powerful, it's incredible. He says, as long as men die, liberty will never perish. Oh my gosh, what the hell does that really mean?
Yeah.
He slips it in there, but think about what that means. How does the unconscious mind handle this massive assumptive close? Because that's a close. He's closing there. There's no question. As long as men die, liberty will never perish. And it's followed by a pause and an intense series of sub-commands and subtle ideas that basically say, if the right people die, this will preserve your freedom. And that includes the martyrs and the dictators. So he's saying you've got to be ready to die for your freedom and kill for your freedom.
Mm. So liberty, I'm just looking it up, it's the ability to do as one pleases. In modern politics, liberty consists of the social, political and economic freedoms to which all community members are entitled.
Wow, yeah. But you can only have that if you kill people and you're willing to die.
But they can also die naturally.
Well, okay. Well, let's see if that's an option. These are just lines, these are just lines that are packed. The next one, he says, soldiers. Now, earlier, remember, he said, if you can hear me, he's separating the audience. Because obviously they can all hear him because that's what he's doing. He said the whole world, thousands of millions of people can hear me. Even now, in fact, he doesn't. He said, even now my voice is going out to millions of people. So why would you then say, if you can hear me? Because he's saying my voice is going out to you, but only some can hear you. And who are the ones I want to hear? Soldiers. Don't give yourself to brutes. In other words, don't follow other people, because I'm not a brute. I'm sorry. I don't want to conquer people. I don't want to rule. I want to be kind. So obviously I'm not a brute. So you can give yourself to me, but don't give yourself to brutes. The music and vocal intensity, without shouting, increases projection, which he's a master of, to drive home the reverse command. It's a reverse command. Don't give yourself to brutes. Begs the question, who should you give yourself to? Remember, the mind can't do negatives.
Yeah.
So it's saying, don't give yourself to brutes. The mind's like, what do I do with that? I've got to give myself to somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't give yourself to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think and what to feel, who drill you, diet you. Where the hell's that one come from? To drill you and diet you? It should be to drill you and starve you. But the writers have gone for the rhythmic, poetic alliteration that the unconscious mind loves, gained by the double Ds. And we all love double Ds, because drill you and diet you is the duh. And it prepares for the emphasis to the command, don't give yourselves. So before this, he had don't give yourself to brutes, and he's going to have don't give yourself something in a minute. And then he's got these D's sandwiched between there, who drill you and diet you. That's deliberate. It's not an accident. That word has been chosen. They've gone to the dictionary and found it to replace starve, because it's not got the right rhythm.
Yeah.
They drill you and diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men. Again, who should you give yourselves to?
Yeah.
To machine men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machine. Now we're going to get there's about 5 U's. And with the music, it goes, you are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate. So he's gone, you, negative, a fact in the middle. So you are not machines, you are not cattle, fact. You are men, a fact. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. Don't know. You don't hate. I don't know. But what he's doing is he's creating this group, this tribe. He's separating the people and anchoring them in love and humanity. And you don't hate. You have to bring a picture of hate in your mind to figure out that you don't hate.
Yes.
You see what he's doing there? He's painting this horrible picture, but disassociating it. If you're meant to go to war and kill and do horrible things, they have to disassociate from their actions. He's programming them to disassociate. Even himself, this little meek-mannered barber, is being transformed into the guy at the end who's the commander and the leader. But somehow he's still a nice person. Even though people are going to have to die, he can still be nice.
Yes.
And these are shadow questions. These are subtle, sub-vocal commands, you know. He says, you don't hate, only the unloved hate. Basically, he said, I love you. You are loved. The unloved and the unnatural. And then he links it again brilliantly to soldiers again, soldiers. So it's basically saying, I love you. You are my soldiers. You are loved, and you're naturally that way.
Yeah. The
unloved and the unnatural, only they don't hate. Only they hate, and you don't hate. So you're loved and you're natural. And that way, soldiers don't fight for slavery. Fight for liberty. You just did the definition of liberty.
Yeah.
Now watch this association. You've got to watch that. Fight for liberty. For liberty to gain liberty, someone's got to die. He's associating this freedom, the freedom to do things and to be loved and caring. He's associating them over and over again with fighting. Even though at the beginning he said, I don't want to conquer. I don't want to rule. I want everybody to be happy and help everybody if possible. So he said it right at the beginning. He opens with, I can be a conqueror. I can rule. I can hurt people.
Yeah.
That possibility, right at the beginning, he lays his cards on the table. It's possible that I could do the exact opposite of what I'm saying.
But he also, he kind of warmed them up in the beginning, just very, very gentle, and then kind of say, well, I'm not really like that. I mean, coming back to the Donald Trump analogy, you know, he says things like, I'm not a racist. I'm the least racist person you will find in America. You know, like the whole of America, he's the least racist person. And then he goes on all these racist tweets and allows the audience to make racist chants. But I'm the least racist person.
And
so
that's this. So beautiful. You know, we can use Donald all day because what he's doing is he's creating associations that are, what's that beautiful phrase? Cognitive dissonance.
Mm.
The human mind has the ability to hold two opposing ideas in the mind at the same time. That's what allows creativity.
Right.
That's the tension for creativity. And he's harnessing the most powerful human ability, which is to see something and see in it something that's not there.
Yeah.
That's why we've got aeroplanes. That's why we've got all this technology. Technology, you see something that should be a certain way, and we make it another way. And that's this cognitive dissonance allows us to do that.
Yeah.
Now, all this literally 2 minutes of just the same message in different ways, with different representational systems, with pictures, with sound, with everything. And then he closes the speech early before actually telling you what the close is. So he finished it. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. So that's what he wants to do. And then he goes totally left field. He does a Don. He just comes up with something. You think, where the hell's that come from? He goes, in the 17th chapter of St. Luke, it is written. Now, this is the body coming to an end, and it's the beginning of the close. His eyes, this is why I say it's good for people to watch the clip. His eyes grow wide, and they stare direct into the camera for the first time, at least for an extended period. And then the camera zooms in, because Chaplin knows exactly the theatre. No, he didn't have a zoom lens when he was doing the talkies, or doing the silent movies. So he understands the importance of framing things and leading the audience by where you make them look. His eyes are wide, and it's authority by association, which is one of the 6 laws of influence by Robert Cialdini in his Laws of Influence.
Right.
So it looks like he's just making a quotation, but he's associating himself with the religion, with the Bible. He's basically saying the Bible tells us this. You know, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man, nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power. So now he's summarizing and recapping everything he said so far. Basically saying that, you know, you've got the power. His head's shaking when you watch this. His head is shaking and looking at with the power that's in him. So he's being the power. You, the people, have the power to create the machines. Remember the machines from the beginning?
Yeah.
The power to create happiness. Remember happiness from the beginning?
Yeah.
You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful. If you were right at the beginning, he said this life can be free and beautiful. This life can be good. Now he's going, you, the people, have the power to make this happen. The power to be free and beautiful. Again, just opposing this energy, this violence with the liberty. So the closing shadow question that he opened with, this life can be beautiful. He's now closing by saying, the question is, how can this life be beautiful? All up to now, he's given all this. But now he said, the answer is, if you make it that way, if you use your power to make this life a wonderful adventure. And that's really the close of what the information is given them. So they're primed, they're ready now. And so he moves 3 minutes into a 4-minute speech, and he does a 1 minute of closing.
Yeah.
And so that starts with, he goes, okay, if all that's true, then what? So what? I'm giving you all this, so what? So in the close, he formally announced the close, and he's going to tell them a team needs a leader, democracy is rule of the mob, and the mob needs a boss. So he says, then, in the name of democracy is the rule of the loudest, the many, the biggest voice, the most people. It's not democracy is not the rule of logic or contemplation or thinking. It's the rule of the mob. And it says, let us, in the name of democracy, let us use that power, your power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world. So he's gone fighting in the first sentence.
Yes.
Because that's the purpose of the mob, to point them at something and fight it.
Yeah.
So let's fight for a new world, a decent world that will give man a chance to work. And this is again a deeper one, because again this is the unions, because we've got unite in there with the unions. And the unions wanted to work against the masters, the means of production, and when we have unions, we can fight the powers. So again, no word is wasted here. Let's all unite. And then it says, a decent world will give men a chance to work, gives us the profit of our labor. Yes. And then even more beautifully goes, that will give youth a future and old age a security.
That is a brilliant sentence.
Yeah.
That is an unbelievable, what people can conjure up in their brains as of a visual. Those few words is genius.
It's genius. It reduces the intensity of what he's saying.
Yeah.
While maintaining the intensity. Yes. Makes the intensity attractive.
Yeah.
And it future frames. So you've had the comparison frame. Yeah. Now you've got the future frame with benefits for everyone. That's everyone. That's the young and the old. That's everyone.
Right. Yeah.
And if you notice, when you watch and listen, you'll find that he actually, in taiko drumming, so in what's a crescendo, he actually, it's that. So yes. In the middle of a crescendo, he calms it down. So that is actually underlined by its lack of intensity there. So it's still intense because it's all intense, but within that intense piece, there's a brief respite because it's getting ready for the real crescendo.
Yes.
So it seems like, then, in the name of democracy, you think he's going for it. Just as he's going to go for it, this violent call to action, he gives, and then he says, by the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power. So he's saying that you might have heard this before.
Yes.
But I'm not a brute.
Ah, God. Yeah.
By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power. But they lied. They don't fulfill the promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. But I'm not a liar. I'm not going to do that. So he's saying, you've heard this before. So he double checks, triple checks, quadruple checks this. I'm sorry. I'm not a conqueror. I don't want to rule anybody. And he's repeated the same thing back at the end, but now instead of being a quiet bit of information, now he's basically saying that brutes would promise these things and not give them you. Brutes would take power for themselves, but they're liars. So again, the shadow question is, in fact, now it's not a question. The shadow command is, the shadow fact is, I'm not these things. Why would I be saying these things? I'm just a barber from the sticks. I'm nobody.
Yeah.
You no need to be afraid of me. So he comes to the denouement, which is like the denouement is the final part of a play, a film, or narrative. It's where the strands of the plot, all the pieces that he's put on the table, are all drawn together, and it's all explained or resolved to say, this is what I've been talking about now. Let us fight to free the world. That's his third call to action. In this minute, I counted as 5 calls to actions. And they're all linked to things that he set up at the beginning.
Yeah.
There's the third one. And the volume of the music is rising now. and he's just going straight to camera. Before, earlier, when you look at it, he's looking all around the crowd. He's looking at different. This is cinematic, so he's creating that he's talking to the crowd, but now he's talking to the camera. He's talking to the audience. So this is a call to action. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers. And again, there's a slight dip. Again, not as long as the early ones. Again, there's a little. You think of the drumming is, and the drum is just quiet, very slightly, very subtly.
Yeah.
And it goes to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight, and then the drums are getting loud now. Let's fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead all men's happiness. That's the fourth call to action. And the message there is fight. And remember, we touched on it before. Fighting will lead to happiness.
Yes.
Death will lead to freedom.
Yes.
But there's something missing in all of it. Who will be the leader? Because he says, where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. So there's a little about leadership in there. Just before, the last call to action is, soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite. And he raises his fist like Hitler. And that's the first time he raises his fist and punches the air. Basically, follow me, unite behind me. So, that's the quickest I could do this. There is so much in this. But yeah, and it's layered and it loops back and it sets things up and then it knocks them down. The Great Dictator by Charles Chaplin, written, directed, and starring.
It's genius. I mean,
as an artist, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It says on the bit that I'm reading, says that he spent many months drafting and rewriting the speech for the end of the film. And that many people criticized the speech and thought it was superfluous. Superfluous.
Yeah. Because it wasn't a comedy, was it? It went to, see the whole film is set up for the speech, so people didn't get it.
No.
64. How many years ago? What's 40 from 2020?
It's call it 80 years.
80 years. So he must have got something right. We're still talking about it 80 years later.
Yeah. And others found it uplifting, it says. And then it says, regrettably, Chaplin's words are as relevant today as they were in 1940.
Wow.
And that's what I got from it. You know, we just haven't changed at all as human beings. Or probably will never change.
The human condition.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, it'd be interesting to find out. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say thank you for unpicking it so eloquently and highlighting all those nuances and little bits that you recognize in there that not many people will recognize. And it's very helpful to try and give all of us a sense of, you know, looking at the kind of rhythm that's gone through that speech and the contrasts and the, you know, the metaphors that are being used in there. Also metonymies that are just so, that make us all work when we hear the words, makes us work and therefore make it more memorable in our brains. So, yeah.
Especially in the unconscious mind. So it would be interesting for our tens of listeners to find out what they thought. Was it uplifting? And do they agree? Do they disagree? Because it's only one. As one of my mentors say, well, okay, I've heard what you said. That's one opinion.
Yes.
So there's a lot of people out there, they've got opinions as well.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, I totally get the irony of it. That, you know, he looks dressed up like a famous person that raised to power around that time. And what I find interesting is just how early he was with it.
Yeah, I mean, don't get this 40. They've just come out of the First World War.
Yes.
In less than a generation has passed, and he can see. At this time in America was trying to stay out of the war.
Yeah.
They weren't interested.
Yeah.
So this film was very, very brave. You know, it was. He was saying, "Look, this is what's going to happen. Brutes and monsters are going to take the world." You know, and the whole film is trying to prevent a world war.
Mm.
You can see it coming.
Mm. Yeah, because it must have taken some time to produce the film, so he must have started it in 1939 or... Okay, so...
even longer. It was longer to make films back then, remember?
Yeah, of course,
to make a film, that's modern. It was 5 years, so this was... I'm saying it was... He'd seen what was going on, and it was really prescient, maybe 10 years... In fact, well, to be fair, there was a lot of talk about the war and racism and what was happening in Germany, and some could see it. Well, a lot in America could see it, but we'll get really deep now. But obviously, the big corporations like Ford and other ones, they were making a lot of money out of Germany's preparation for the war. They knew that Germany was preparing for a big war. Mm. They were making a lot of money out of it, so they deliberately stopped the public awareness being raised.
So for me, what it proves that if people spend time writing their speech and rewriting it, and it may take a few months before they get it right, you know, actually it can stand the test of time. It can, in 80 years in the future, it will still be relevant.
It's amazing. I mean, this guy used the film to try and take out a dictator, a living dictator in real time.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, the fact that it's aged so well and it's so relevant there. I mean, maybe someone should play this speech to Donald Trump's audience.
Mm.
Yeah, because apparently, I'm just looking through some of the notes here, and it says that most politicians haven't made a speech like Charlie Chaplin did when he stood up to Hitler, and people hated his movie for knowing the truth about the hatred towards the Jews.
Mm.
He made the star of the movie was, I kept saying, a Jewish barber, a little Jewish barber. This is maybe he started writing this maybe 10 years before the war.
Yeah.
But what they were doing to the Jews was anybody who knew anything could see it. So this hate towards the Jews is being fostered, and he made the Jews the star of his movie.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. That in itself is pretty brave and incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, I've enjoyed that one as always, Michael. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Should we let them know what we're going to talk about next time?
Well, I'd be really grateful if you could, if you have that crystal ball handy, because you know me, I don't know what's going to happen.
Okay, well, the speech we're going to talk about, the third one in the 5-clip speech series, is going to be Vivo for Vendetta.
Ooh, again, it's almost like we know what we're doing, doesn't it? Because the first speech is from a well-known movie. The last two are much more well-known. These 2 and 3 are relatively unknown.
Yes.
So I think tune in if you don't know about V for Vendetta. Another sort of kind of comment on humanity speech. So quite interesting. I'm looking forward to that one.
Okay, so Michael Don, it's time for us to tell our listeners a little bit about what we're doing in the physical, in the real world, the kind of value and workshops that we're giving to our audience. So you first, tell us what your next event is and give us a little bit of detail about that. So over to you.
Okay, well, the next event for me is the CYSS, Master Your Message one-day boot camp. Now, the CYSS is a craft your signature speech. craft your signature speech program, and it does what it says on the tin. It's basically your signature speech, your elevator pitch, but it's an elevator pitch done so that you can use the same structure in all your speeches, which allows you to be more natural, more fluid, because every time you give a speech, you're using the same structure. And that's a lot of what we've been covering and will continue to cover on this podcast.
Yes.
It's almost an unconscious competence. But then I want to take it to the next level where you master your message. It's a one-day speaking and presentation skills seminar where I focus on structure and I pack a lot into the day, but I'm trying now to put the stuff together in a way that it's repetitive, it's structured, it follows a discipline, but it's a discipline that gives you flexibility. So on the day, we're going to cover like presentation skills, influencing, how to use your voice, 9-step presentation system so you know you've hit all the buttons for all the people in the audience, how to build a speech, how to write a speech, rhetoric versus content, what they are and how to balance them, platform techniques, where to stand, how to stand, and answering questions. So if you want to master your number one skill, which I believe is speaking and presenting, and you want to blow the roof off your profits for your business, you might want to check out the CYSS, the Master Your Message One Day Bootcamp, Saturday, 27th of July at 55 Newell Street, Shakti Women's Suite, which is a wonderful venue. And the price is £197. The early birds are closed now, but if you, what can I do? Can I do this quickly? If you put the SOS podcast in the promotional area, it'll be 157. So you can get a discount there. So normal price 197, it's 157, and the password is SOS podcast, all lowercase. How's that, Michael?
That's brilliant. Thank you. That's perfect. And I just to kind of back this up, because I've experienced your workshops. I haven't been on the boot camp yet, but I know that the value that people will get, the information that they will get, the practice that they will get. And I love the word influence, because this is really where people need to get better at in their speaking. I mean, let alone improving their public speaking, but using influence in their public speaking. That's where the magic happens. So let me tell you about my next event. So my next event is on Tuesday, the 20th of August, and that's the Share Your Story Storytelling Workshops. Again, it's in the middle of Birmingham City Centre, also at the Shakti, you called it Suite, I call it Shakti Rooms.
Yeah, Shakti Rooms, I think that's right.
And my session is a 3-hour immersive session, which will give you the foundations of how to bring your business story alive in everything that you create online and offline, and you will leave with a blueprint for your own business. And also, I'll follow that up with a couple of kind of coaching calls, 40-minute coaching calls that is included. And there's lots of freebies as well. You get my LinkedIn e-course, 13 hours of LinkedIn training for free included in that. You become part of a private LinkedIn mastermind group obviously on LinkedIn for all the workshop attendees. And also you have an invite to come on the Share Your Story podcast, which is a different podcast to that, where I interview business owners, small business owners with less than 9 employees, to share their story about their business journey. And in fact, their life journey as well, and their career, and then how they got into business. So I'll do exactly the same as you. There will be a discount if you put in SOS podcast. There's like a coupon, and just go to stayingaliveuk.com and follow the links for Share Your Story, and go to the booking section and put in the code. So where can they book for yours, Michael Don?
Right. So if they go to Eventbrite
Yep.
and put in CYSS Authentic Speaker Birmingham. Eventbrite is quite good and they'll find that. I'm not as efficient as the wonderful Michael de Groot, who's a master. In fact, it's a little story on this long podcast. I met Michael when I went to one of his lunches he used to run in Birmingham. Do you remember those, Michael?
Yeah, LinkedIn lunch. I was ahead of my time, yeah.
So, yes, and you always are. That's one thing about Michael. Honestly, this guy's always ahead of the game. Even between when we put on this podcast, he's told me some stuff about CRM systems that's hot off the press. Very rarely do I speak to Michael and not find the latest stuff. So when you get his huge LinkedIn program, understand it's been around a while, but the stuff he's got in there, some people still aren't sharing. So it's a brilliant resource. I'm lucky enough to have a copy of it myself. That's really good. And the storytelling workshop, well, he's a master. And we're looking for the audience of SOS Podcast to use everything we do in their business. In your personal life, absolutely yes. For relationships, absolutely yes. But our focus is to get small businesses operating at the best they can. And the storytelling workshop puts storytelling at the heart of your business. And if you think storytelling doesn't work, you need to listen to a guy called Donald Trump, because he just tells stories all the time. And
Yes.
got him the president of the United States.
Yes.
So you may not get those results, but you can get bloody good results.
Yes.
So, yeah, look for me on Eventbrite. I will give Michael a link. So you'll also see the link to the event on the podcast.
Brilliant. Well, it's goodbye from Michael de Groot.
And it's goodbye from Michael Don Smith.
See you next time on the Story of a Speech podcast. Goodbye.